I know
Okay,
it does take a second too.
it does. It has just started.
Hmm.
Alrighty, so we shall begin. Well, welcome, Keldrick. My name is Kat Owen, and so glad to meet you and have you spend some time with me today. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
Well,
Doing good as
good,
I can.
good. Well, I'm glad you're here. And one thing before we get going, I just want to remind you and make sure there are no questions that before you came in today, you went ahead and read and filled out a consent form,
Mhm.
which explains everything that you're agreeing to and that I'm not sharing your information or making that public in any way, that what you say to me in here is confidential. Did you have any questions about that?
No, not that I can think of.
Okay. And the only other reminder I have before we get going is obviously, like we just said, everything you say is confidential except in the event that you tell me or share with me that you intend to do harm to yourself or others. In that instance, I am legally bound, in hopefully a very caring, compassionate way to help you, but I am bound to notify the proper channels to make sure that we protect you and we protect others. So just want to make sure you don't have any questions about that and that you understand that.
Yes, I understand it. Thank you.
Great, great. Stop me at any time if you have any questions about that or need to revisit that. Um, Today, I like to explain to clients that today, the first time we meet, the best way that I can get to know you and understand how I can better help you is through what we call a intake form. And basically, at medical offices, you do this a lot of time, and you fill out all the information so the doctor knows, hey, I noticed this is going
Mhm.
on or that's going on. It's the same thing, but less physical and more mentally and more about your history and your family. So if that's okay, we're going to kind of move through that and stop me at any time if you don't understand or if you're uncomfortable answering something, and we can certainly revisit that later or table it for now. So, okay, anything before we get started?
No, I'm
Okay,
ready.
great. So you are a male, right? And identify as a male.
Yes, I do.
Okay. And your full name is Keldrick Edwards, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And Keldrick, how old are you?
I'm 25.
25. Great. And what would you say your ethnicity and or language is?
I identify as a black man,
Okay.
and I speak primarily English. I know a
Okay.
little bit of Spanish and things, but I speak primarily English.
Okay. Very interesting. So you do speak a different language, a second language.
Not enough to survive just off of that, but yeah.
That's awesome though. Learning languages is so beneficial to us. Okay. Do you mind, are you in school or are you employed at this time? Can you tell me a little bit about your employment or school?
I'm currently in a graduate school. I
Okay.
feel like I've been in college for a long time though.
Feels like a long time. Okay. Do you work full-time, part-time, any around that?
I do like odd jobs, mostly handyman stuff, just to kind of make
Handyman.
rent.
Gotcha. Odd jobs. Handyman. So skilled with your hands.
Yeah,
All right. What's your current relationship status? In other words, single, married, divorced, living with a partner?
I'm single.
Single. Okay. Do you live alone?
Yes, I live by myself.
Okay. Single. Thank you. Okay. Can you share with me a little bit of what brings you here today?
Um, so sorry, it's tough.
That's okay. Take your time. Take a deep breath.
Maybe about a year ago, when I was still in an athlete,
Okay.
I hurt myself really bad and needed to get surgery. And
Okay.
so, one of the medicines that they prescribed me because of my injury and the recovery process was was Percocet, and
Okay.
it helped a lot. But I I haven't really been able to kick the habit as good as I wanted to.
Okay.
It's been difficult. Um,
Okay.
at first, I didn't think it was a problem, and even when I healed, I was still taking it and had all these extra medicine,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't really need to take it when I wasn't hurting anymore. But I still had some, so I still would take it, and I just didn't like how I felt when I wasn't on it, and tried to go, score more here, there, and
Okay.
I just feel like it's just weighing me down too much.
Okay. So, if I understand correctly, you sustained a athletic injury about a year ago.
Mhm.
So, I'm not sure if you had surgery or saw a physician that prescribed Percocet for you. Is that correct?
Yes, I saw a doctor, and that was one of the medicines that they gave me for it.
Okay. Do you recall a year ago how long you were directed by the physician to take that medication?
Um, Probably about 2 months. Um, uh, After I
Two.
sustained the injury, because I had
Uh-huh.
to wait for the surgery process, and after surgery is
Okay.
when I got the prescription.
Okay. So about 2 months you were prescribed to take the
Hmm.
Percocet. Okay.
Hmm.
Thank you for sharing. That helps me understand. So that's a good lengthy time to need to take medication for pain.
Hmm.
And uh, I heard you say that after that, you struggled to stop. And I commend
Hmm.
you for sharing that because I know it's frustrating to share with people and want others to understand that the struggle is there, and yet it sounds like you continue to score, as you said, opiates or to score Percocets.
Hmm.
Do I hear that correctly?
Yeah, it's like that physical pain wasn't there anymore, but I didn't realize at the time, but it was also numbing that emotional stuff too I had going on at the time.
Okay.
I was distressed, just taking something just to take a little bit of the edge off here or there, but
Okay. Do you remember what was distressing at that time besides the physical injury? Or what was going on at that time that was causing you that distress?
well, I remember thinking, I was hurt and I never get a chance to to play again,
Oh, yeah.
and I felt like I would lose everything, wouldn't have any scholarship money anymore because if I'm not playing, I don't deserve the money. Um, I was worried that everybody would be disappointed with me. I come from nowhere, so this is me going somewhere, and I'm trying to continuously, build a future. But it was just something so heavy, I just couldn't see past it.
Hmm. And that's a very valid concern when you have a scholarship tied in with your athletic ability. That's a lot of to carry on your shoulders. So, um, thank you for sharing that. Can you share with me more? Tell me more. You said after the prescriptions were gone, that you scored opiates. Can you tell me more what you mean by that? Does that mean legal, illegal? And again, it's confidential here. I'm just wanting to learn more about what you mean by that.
So at first, it was legal. I would go to my doctor and just tell him, something happened with my medicine, I dropped it or whatever. And then after a while, tell him, yeah, I'm still kind of feeling some pain. And he just write me another prescription. I don't think he really was paying attention to how much I actually was taking.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of trying to get me up out of there. He looked like he was overworked. I don't have like a primary doctor per se.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was just going to the doctor that they gave me when I was in the hospital. And, he was kind of overworked. And then after that, he just wouldn't write me any more prescriptions. He said
Mm-hmm.
that I should be fine now and this and that. So I would get it illegally, um,
Okay.
wherever I could.
Okay. Um, I understand, and I hope you're being very safe, or if that happens again, that you are very safe in putting yourself in those uh, positions. And I appreciate you sharing that with me. Um, I did hear you say that you are here because you want to stop this. So,
Mhm.
uh, do you have a desire to cut down and have just been unsuccessful to cut down or stop the opioid or the Percocet use?
Yeah, I tried to stop. I've tried to stop a couple times at least. It just always gets too much. It's like waking up from a dream, but you're actually reality is actually the actual nightmare, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And once I get off, it's just everything at one time hits me.
Okay.
And I want to stop because I don't want to be so dependent on that. And you know, I know it's not something that is going to help me in the long run, but I just don't know how to do it, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Mm-hmm.
'Cause I've tried to just stop taking them, but that just hasn't worked. Like haven't taken them for a few days now. Like I came in sober. I didn't want to make it,
Okay.
you know, uh I want to actually have a conversation with you and just not be spaced out.
Okay. So haven't used in several days, may is a week, 3 days to the best of your ability, 10
It's
days,
been it's been about a week, a little
about a
under a
week.
week maybe, probably about like 6 days. Just yeah.
Okay. Um, Let me ask you this. Can you share with me, has it affected your daily life? I know you're in graduate school, you're playing a sport. Um, I don't, you may have a social activities and things. Can you share if that has affected the use of the Percocet has affected that in any way?
Definitely. That's actually another reason why I came in. I've, I I tend to think of myself more as a functional person,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like I've started to find myself more and more uh like trapped with the thought of it. How it makes me feel and how I feel when I'm off of it. I've started missing classes.
Okay.
Forgetting about other things because my mind is focused on is when I'm gonna take it again. Where can I get it from? And I've missed family events and things like that, just trying
Okay.
to get here or there to make sure that I could get what I needed. Because if I didn't have it, then but then I go around family, and then it's like we can tell you're high because this is not how you act, and I'm just like, yeah, man.
Okay. And how long has that been going on since family, friends, affecting school? About how long have you noticed that's been going on?
Um, I'd probably say like after I was prescribed to take the medicine,
Mm-hmm.
probably about a month in, I started to
Okay.
kind of notice that it was putting a strain on things, but
Okay.
still taking it. So I'm thinking, well, this is temporary. It'll only be like this for a little while. But
Okay.
I couldn't kick the habit. It's just gotten worse.
Okay. Well, again, I commend you for being open and honest and comfortable coming in and sharing all of that so that hopefully we can help you get what you need to feel better and remove yourself from these cravings. Um, may I ask, as far as the family, and I know that you noted that there have been some strains since the use, but what is your relationship typically like with family and close friends? Is that good? You have some close relationships or?
I typically think of my circle as being very close. I grew up in a big family, but we were like well connected
Hmm.
and even friends and things like that. Um, and I was everybody wanted to come to my games and things like
Hmm.
that. So with family, we would bond over football. That's what we had.
Okay.
So all together, um, it brought us closer.
Okay.
So.
So a very close family with you, with your close with your siblings,
Hmm.
with your family, you've had a good relationship. So the use of the Percocet, you have noticed that strain that you mentioned then with this close bond with your family.
Yes.
And they've
Yeah.
mentioned it and noticed it. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. And I did hear you say that it has affected school, that you have missed some classes. Has it affected your grades at any
It's
point
definitely
with it?
started to.
Okay.
I was on the deans and president's list respectively for all the years I've, been in college, but now it's just like I'm struggling to get by. I'm not failing yet, but it's like
Okay.
SACs get degrees, but I've just never really been a C guy, I don't like I want to strive for the best of the best and just haven't been able to do that.
Okay. I understand. Thank you for sharing that. Um, and for noticing. I've again commend you that you are noticing the effect that this drug is having on you early enough to come in and hopefully see what avenues you can take to feel better about this. Any past, and again, I know these questions seem intense sometimes, but this is just a way for me to get to know better, more about you and your history and your family. Do you have
Okay.
any past history of trauma or abuse?
Let me see. I don't maybe, but like not like anything that probably would be too terrible. I did I did have some family members that we are not close with anymore that were very abusive.
Okay,
Um my grandfather was very abusive and I stayed with them most of the times my parents worked a lot when I was a kid and
okay,
he would he'd put hands on me, probably a little bit more than he should have.
okay.
For sure.
In an abusive, in a physical, angry
Yes.
manner or sexual?
He would physically hit me,
Okay, okay,
like closed fist hit me.
okay. I'm sorry to hear that. I know that must have been very difficult as a child. And I thank you for sharing that with me. And but you said that after at a certain age, your family discontinued relations with your grandfather. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
At the time we didn't know, but he had a separate psychological thing going on. Got a little old and his mind went away, just was very aggressive.
Okay.
Very aggressive. And I didn't really know it was a problem, because I'm a kid. So I just think this is how everybody is, the grandparents
Hmm.
treat them, and they always,
Hmm.
the kids say, well, my granddad's hard on me too. And I say, well, does, how much does he punch you? And then they be like, punch.
Hmm.
And I'm just like, well, yeah, doesn't everybody get hit? But I didn't realize till I got older that was not normal.
Yeah.
Um,
Such
so
a That's such a good observation. Let me tell you how smart that is, how intuitive as a child, because when we're young, we only know what we know. So we just assume everyone else acts and behaves like our family acts and behaves. So I want to recognize that. That's such an intuitive uh, part of you that noticed that even young. They're like, oh, other that's not happening elsewhere. Did you receive at any time any counseling, whether through school or private, or any counseling after or during that time period?
no, no,
Okay,
not at all.
okay, all right.
It just kind of was like, it'll be okay. He's not here anymore. And, because they put him in like a home when they would go visit him on
Mhm,
rare occasions, um, I never would go, and they would try to tell me, say, well, he doesn't remember. So like, it's not, he wasn't trying to and this and that. But from what my other family members have told me he always was kind of aggressive anyways. It's just when his mom went away, he kind of lost
Mhm.
the the ability to hold it back, and it became more physical than it was just
Mhm.
emotional abuse and stuff. So I just
Well,
got the worst of it apparently.
well, I'm sorry that that happened to you, and thank you for sharing that. Um, Not to switch off, but I do want to make sure we only have a limited time that we can meet this first time and kind of get to know you, and then we can certainly go into back to these areas and revisit what we need to uh, in the future and in future meetings. Be happy to do that, and that may be something we want to address down, in the future. Um, so, any past, now I know we're here to discuss the year ago, the injury, the Percocet, and then not stopping, continuing and finding whatever ways, lying to get to that. Um,
Mhm.
but prior to that, had you ever had, or have you ever had previous substance use um, beyond what would be normal, or anything you'd like to share previously where you maybe saw some craving or some almost abuse, or anything you'd like to share with me about that in your history besides this past 12 months?
Um, no, I mean I'm a college kid, we
Hmm.
binge drinking things like that, but nothing
Right.
that like I just had to do. I really don't even like alcohol that much.
Okay.
This was a social thing. I feel like anyway.
Okay. So
So
no
mhm.
other drug use in high school, junior high, or
No,
anything else.
no.
Okay. Just what we call the normal college
Hmm.
experience. Okay. Alrighty. And I think you probably already answered this. When we talk about recent events or life changes, stressors that may have triggered and or played a role in the problem that you're here with today, I think we
Hmm.
want to take it back to that injury. And I didn't ask, you talked about football and how important it is. Is your athletic scholarship and the sport that you um, enjoy and are doing under the scholarship football?
Yes.
Okay.
Uh, I
Okay.
have a little bit of a an academic scholarship, but mostly
Okay.
football pays for
Okay.
pretty much everything. It's definitely the bigger one for sure.
Okay. And you said with that, a lot of the stressors that came with that is losing the scholarship,
Hmm.
which I can see that being a stressor. Losing your scholarship, disappointing it. You had mentioned, and correct me if I was wrong, that you did not want to disappoint your family.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's very important to them. And some concern of losing a activity that's very near and dear to your heart. You really enjoy football. Am I correct with that?
Yeah, yeah. It's been a big part of my life ever since I can remember. So,
Okay. Are you back a year post that injury? Have
mhm.
you been able to go back, or are you in rehab, like physical rehab to build back, or is there an opportunity for you to go back to that football and play football?
So the injury I had was I I broke some type of bone. I can't remember exactly what thing it's called, but it was in my it was in my leg,
Oh
like the
goodness. Okay.
around my quad area. It was jacked up, but the only way they could fix it was by doing the surgery. And
Okay.
I've pretty much gotten back 100%. I'm starting position. I'm back starting and everything. I'm more, if I had to give a percentage, I'm probably like 90% back to where I was.
Hmm.
But I still feel like I have time. But I guess what worries me is like knowing that I have to do the drug testing and things and all this other
Okay.
stuff, and I don't want it to show up, and then I get flagged, and so everything goes downhill, man.
Okay. So if I hear you correctly, your sport, the school drug tests, the
Hmm.
athletes, and you will be penalized in some form if you test positive for Percocet or opioids. Is that,
Hmm.
am I understanding that correctly? Okay. And that
Yes.
adds a stressor to you. So that's another stressor and that weighs on you. Okay.
Hmm.
All righty. Um, and I meant to ask back when we discussed family, do you have any familial or history of family members having any type of substance abuse? It may be alcohol, it could be, does it have to be Percocet? Do you have any knowledge of that?
Yes. A lot of my family members are actually alcoholics. Like
Okay.
not even in the like just picking at somebody type of way, like, oh, they drink a lot. No, they like legit alcoholics.
Okay.
Including my grandfather, which if probably contributed to his issues later on in life. But him, my uncles, the only people I think that doesn't drink that heavily in my family is probably my grandmother and my my mother and my father. But they were scared off of it because of their family members, how much they drunk. So
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. One thing that I want to jump over to, which to me has always been a really cool discussion to get to know clients and get to know people, is to figure out from you and from even what I've heard, what you think some of your strengths are. Personally,
mhm.
what do you think? What pops in your head of two or three strengths that you have?
Well, let's see. I guess for sure I'm a hard worker. I'm
Okay.
gonna try to get it done. That's my motto. I don't necessarily feel like there's anything I can't accomplish if I work hard at it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm I'm optimistic. I think that I try my best to see the positives in things, even when it's
Great.
difficult. Those are probably my two biggest for sure that
Okay.
I can think of. Mhm.
Alrighty, awesome. What about willingness? Because I already see willingness to uh, to grow positively, and to ask for help. What do you think?
Mhm. I like that because yeah, I could definitely see that. I do want to grow for sure. Not just in one area, but in all areas.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, it takes willingness to come in the door, and you have come in the door. So I definitely see willingness there too. And boy, I love the optimism and the hard worker. So that's wonderful. Um, what about relationships or social friends or whatever? How do you feel your strengths are as a friend or a boyfriend? I know you said you're single right now, or even as a
mhm.
sibling or a family member. Anything you want to
um,
share?
I'm reliable for sure. I
Reliable.
try to be.
Okay.
I prefer to uh be there for people.
Mm-hmm.
And treat them how I would like to be treated. So I want people to be there for me. So I do what I can when I can. And I'm just I don't know if this would be a strength per se, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm self-sufficient. Like I don't
Okay. Mm-hmm.
think people have to worry about, watching me 24/7, or everybody
Mm-hmm.
else has their own thing going on. And I just want to be okay enough to where you don't have to worry about
Mm-hmm.
me.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of family members that consistently are in out of jail or
Mm-hmm.
on this or doing that. So I don't want to be one of those. So I try to my best to be self-sufficient as possible.
Absolutely. And I think that is an excellent trait to have, self-sufficiency. Um, it doesn't mean you won't ask for help when you need it or rely on the people you care about when you need
Mhm.
them, but you're also able to independently do what you need to do and move forward in your life. I think that's definitely self-sufficiency is definitely a strength. Um, what's your spirituality? Are you religious or spiritual or anything you'd like to share about that?
Yeah, I would say I'm a Christian for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Typically. non-denominational. But yeah, I'm saying I'm a Christian. I did a FCA for a long time, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes
Hmm.
for a long time. It was just in high school. I'm still in it now. We prayed and everything like that, but yeah, so I'm just not like a overly religious, I'd say, but you know, I pray and
Hmm.
things like that and go to church when I can. So
Okay, good. Since you've been in college, have you been attending any church or services or any type of college FCA?
in college, yes, I've done FCA. It's quite hard though in my area. I go to school and find
Hmm.
a good home church while I'm at school, and it's only
Hmm.
because like I'm just not comfortable with how certain churches are set up.
Hmm.
So I go once or twice and then just kind of be like, maybe it's not for me.
Hmm.
Maybe this place is not for me, but I've tried for sure. And other times when I could drive like home, I stay a few hours away, but not enough to where like the drive would be like, never mind. I just be tired, after
Hmm.
games on Saturdays. I just kind of want to lay around and be sore for a little while.
Hmm.
So
Well, thank you for sharing all of that. I know it's a lot to ask, especially in the first session and first meeting me and me getting to know you, but that helps me get a good idea of your history and where you're coming from and a little bit of who you are. And kind of circling back and summarizing that you initially came in, you're concerned, you've been off Percocets for about a week, so let's just say 7 days, that you wish to curb this craving that you cannot seem or have had a hard time controlling. And if I understood
mhm.
correctly, it has affected your family life, your social life. You're not as active as you used to be. Definitely affecting school. You're not going as much. Your grades aren't in the tank yet, but you're noticing decline in grades, and you also are concerned it would affect your football ability to play football and therefore hold your scholarship. And all of this kind of began once that first big injury happened about a year ago where you
Mhm.
had to take pain medications. And I do appreciate that you noted there might be some other stresses, and thoughts and behaviors in your head that get a little negative. You mentioned numbing. So I would like down the road maybe for us to open up, if you're open to it, maybe discuss more about that. But my question today would be, is your goal to discontinue completely the Percocet use and find coping mechanisms and healthy ways to move on without having to rely or having to turn towards any opioid or substance?
Yeah, I definitely want to stop. This is not me. I've never been one to be dependent on anything, let alone, drugs. But I feel, I'm sometimes I'm kind of embarrassed, because
Hmm.
I'm supposed to be the reliable one. So
Hmm.
for me, it's just hard. I can't really talk with anybody about it.
Hmm.
So I just don't want this to become something that I'm known for,
Hmm. Hmm.
and I'm trying. It's just hard.
Well, you're trying. You just said that. That is huge. The willingness is one of the biggest stepping stones when it comes to alcohol or drugs or feeling that you need that. So I applaud that you're here and that you want to work on stopping this craving, stopping this inability to control this. Uh, my last question would be, and I know we've been through a lot, is since it's only been a week, are you okay? Are you having any physical or mental withdrawal symptoms that are impacting you in a way that we need to address before we meet again next week? Or are you feeling anything? Can you share with me if you're having any negative symptoms?
Yeah, I'm definitely craving. For sure.
Okay. So the mental
I'm
craving.
I'm literally, sometimes it almost feels like I'm itchy.
Okay.
Because I need to have it.
Okay.
I'm literally fighting the urge to display that. I don't want to freak out or anything. I'm sober right now. I am craving for sure. I
Okay.
am definitely craving.
Okay. Have you tried any coping mechanisms or any other avenues outside of coming to counseling to help you with this craving and or physical symptoms? When I mention that, I mean, I don't know if there's any support groups on campus that maybe you've attended and they may not have any, uh, college AA or NA
Mhm.
support groups, or if you've talked to anyone else like your advisor, or if you have any resources. Don't know if church, or is there anything you've been doing that's helped you these past 7 days?
Um, so there are a few groups that meet on campus. There's like a non-specific
Mhm,
addiction one.
mhm,
And there's one specifically for opioids
mhm.
and a few other things, but I'm scared to go to them because I don't want the word to get back to my coach that I'm hooked on it.
Okay,
It's
I
kind of
understand.
hard on us.
Sure.
Um, Normally, I think the longest I've been able to stop was maybe a little over a week.
Hmm.
And every time I got the urge, I'd just go for a run. Maybe I felt like I could tire myself out, and I wouldn't have to think about it anymore. And but it only works for so long.
Well, thank you for
So
sharing that. And I noticed that you mentioned when you go for a run. Have you noticed that when you get physical, that you tend to, like, whether you're working out for football, I know maybe keeping you busy again now for practices and whatnot, or going for a run, have you noticed if those behaviors have helped lower the craving, even if it's temporary?
yeah, definitely. It's just something else to put my mind on for a little while. Like draw my whole focus to. It's still there, but it's like more of a meh type of feeling versus like I gotta have it. But as soon as I come off the field or I get back inside, I'm like, nah, I really want it. You know, and
Okay.
I'm just like, I don't know what to do about that part of it.
Okay. Well, maybe we can work together to come up with some coping mechanisms that work for you. And sometimes it's trial and error, and we have to try different things. Some people love journaling and they write
Mhm.
every evening. Some people don't like to write. So I hope that I can help you find some things um, that help you cognitively change that thought pattern of, oh, I want, and maybe something else, whether it's an evening run or walk around campus, or finding a good television show with your roommate in the dorm room to watch nightly, and then, or going to the study library and keeping yourself busy, especially in the short term when this is early, keeping yourself busy until we meet again next week. And then maybe we can come up together with some uh, techniques, or again, ideas that work for you that can help you through this. Um, you know, I encourage, and I understand completely. I encourage that talking with someone is wonderful, even if it's an anonymous phone call that's someone out of state that's not connected with your local college group. But again,
Mhm.
we can work on that. If you think you have some short-term mechanisms that you can use for the next week or so, hopefully to get each day, as they say, one day at a time, to not use, then maybe we can work together and help you move through this and see a lot of growth. Your
Mhm.
willingness is there. So, are there any questions for me?
I don't really have any right now. I don't think so.
Okay.
I think I'm good. Yeah.
Great. Well, I greatly appreciate your time. You have a lot of spirit in you, like you said. So it was a lot today, and I thank you. And then I look forward, we'll continue on when we meet again.
Hey, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Keldrick.